And welcome to another video here. This is Tom from 6 Foot Networks. Today I wanted to talk briefly about the Apple Remote Desktop software that's made by Apple. So essentially, this tool is the best way to manage Mac computers, I believe, hands down. You guys know we are pretty much a 100% Mac shop. And we've done everything with it, from installing software to literally remote in and help somebody out, put in a password, you know, that kind of stuff. And also we can generate reports of software versions and whatnot. So there's a lot of tools inside this package. Now, this product has received many critical, reviews over the years. It's been around for a long time, and essentially, if we go to the App Store and we type, Apple Remote Desktop, we should get some kind of results here, or maybe not. Oh yeah, there they are. Just a little slow today. So if we click on this, you can see that, out of 5 stars, it barely has 1.7. But you know what? I hear what some of these guys are saying as with regards to, the rating of this software. But it's to me personally, I use this every day. In fact, I have it open on my management machine right now, and I'm looking at, I want to say 114 computers. But I might be wrong. The point is that it allows you to look at multiple computers across multiple subnets and do pretty much anything with them. So what I want to do, I've already installed this on this computer here, and what I wanted to do is I wanted to go over the installation of it and the basic functionality of it, and I'll show some of these capabilities here in a second. So let me quit out of the App Store here. Oops. Quit App Store. Alright, we'll agree to the software agreement. The first thing it'll ask you to do is to create a password. So Apple Remote Desktop stores credentials. So every computer that you put into this tool, you have to provide its account that allows you to connect to it and control it. That information should really be safeguarded. So what I'll do is I'll just create a password for this. Nothing crazy. This checkbox is critical. If you share your computer with, say, I don't know, your household or somebody else that's on your team, or somebody that you may not want to have access to all of these computers, then you do not want to check this box. If you uncheck this box like it says here, you will essentially be prompted to enter your password each time you launch Apple Remote Desktop. And that's important because you want to maintain some kind of safeguards and security. But if only you use your computer, nobody else touches it, and you have File Vault enabled, and you have a good password for your account, then it's safe to check this box, because then this software will not ask you for a password every time you launch it. I feel the need to note that if you do forget this password for any reason, you will essentially lose everything that's in the software. You will have to start over. It'll be like reinstalling the product. Okay, so we're going to continue. Now, report collection's a neat tool. I don't really use it. I use it once in a while to check versions and stuff like that, but I do that on the fly. I don't need to really worry about any of this stuff. Then we hit done. So you get this fancy schmancy little window here. I'm going to make it a little bigger, and you will see the computers that are available via Bonjour, by default. So over here on your left, you have your All Computers window, which will list all of the computers that you have credentials for, as well as any offline machines or machines that you previously connected to that are now no longer there. It's actually a great record keeping tool too, because you can add things like MAC address, Ethernet ID, model information, machine serial numbers to the fields, and it actually is really good. So this machine currently is visible to 2 other computers on this subnet. One's my Mac Pro main machine, my edit machine, and the other one is a laptop that's currently running remote desktop in the other office. Here you can specify task servers, jobs, any active tasks that are currently running, as well as all of your command history. So you can see here that it's pretty basic. I mean, out of the box, we can literally connect to, let's say we connect to this guy here, my other machine. I'll tell you the IP address, its host name if it can pull that, Ethernet MAC address as it's connected to the network, any activity which we don't have. So what I will do is I will provide, and actually here's a better way to do this. If you go to preferences, okay, let's go through these preferences real quick. Double clicking a computer, you saw when I double clicked this, it showed me the get info. It just gave me basic info. But you can control, curtain, observe, and chat. Control, self-explanatory. It allows you full control of the machine. Curtain gives you full control of the machine, but it literally blocks out the monitors on the other end. So that way, if you have a machine that is currently in use, but you want to do something under the hood, you don't want the user to see it because of serial numbers or whatever, you want to maintain some kind of a security, then you want to curtain it, because it'll literally black out the screen, put a lock on the screen, and it'll say that it's in management mode or whatever text you put in, so that the end user knows, oh, okay, there's the admin's controlling it. Observe, again, self-explanatory. This allows you viewing, but no control. And then you can even have a chat with a two-way chat with the end user. So if you're in an office far away and you're controlling a computer, this feature actually has come handy pretty often. The funny part about the chat specifically is that it pronounces the letters on the other end as you type them. So it's not like you type a sentence and you hit enter and it goes. It's actually spelling out the words. So if you suck at typing, the other person's going to know it just based on the fact that they can read as you're typing, which it may or may not be a good idea. But I actually use another portion of this that I'll show a little bit later, where you can actually send a message. So if I'm, say, shutting down a computer, right now it's 12:15, say at 12:30 I want to do some maintenance, it's Saturday, nobody should be using it, I can blast a message out to all the connected computers in this software to say, this server is going down at this time for this long, have any questions, cry about it, and do something fun on a Saturday instead of working, that kind of thing. Which I use a lot more than chat, just because of the fact that if I'm typing and it's kind of embarrassing if you make a lot of mistakes or you suck at typing, or if you're in a data center and you're typing sideways or your laptop's on its side and you're like with one hand. It gets a little crazy with the chat, and it's actually fun watching them reply back too. So anyway, so let's go back to these preferences here. So I usually set this to observe, so that way when I double click a computer, it automatically puts me into view mode. I can always trigger control mode or curtain mode or any of the other modes once I have the window up. These are all fine. Control, these are pretty much all fine. One thing you might want to consider is when controlling a computer, take complete control. I usually share the control at first. You can rip the control from them with one of these buttons up here, based on your setting, because if you're dealing with a user that wants to continually have his hand on the mouse or keyboard, it'll screw with your session. It'll prevent you from being able to do what you need to do, or they can start typing, or they can move the mouse or close a window or whatever as you're trying to do your job. So in cases where I'm typing passwords, usernames, passwords, email addresses, or anything that's critical, that's sensitive, I take complete control. And if it's really sensitive, like serial numbers and stuff like that, that you don't want the users to know about, I will curtain the computer, so that way they have no control. I have full control. Even if they restart the computer, when the computer comes back up, I will still have control. So it's kind of a nice little forced, hey, I'm on your computer, wait for me to finish. You asked for help, now go do something, and when I call you that I'm done, you can go back and use your computer, that kind of thing. So that might be something to talk about. Shared clipboard, I would honestly prefer to specify whether or not I want to send clipboard data to the machine. So this is kind of a user preference. And also remember setting for each computer. I like that setting because if I'm controlling my computers and I want to share the clipboard all the time, then I'm fine. If I'm controlling a client machine or a server room machine in any way, then I wouldn't want shared clipboard, because if I have something on my clipboard, it'll automatically share it there and it'll remain there until that computer is restarted. So this is one of those functions that you have to be careful with. Also full screen mode, I don't use this. I display it in a new window because I like my management consoles in a windowed fashion. So if I have 4 screens up, I can literally have a quad view of 4 servers right here. Smaller, but whatever, it works. Task server, if you want to schedule jobs, say you want to empty trash every night at midnight, this app needs to be running for you to schedule any jobs 24 hours a day. It essentially uses your computer as a scheduling server, as a task server. And you can actually set up tasks, like I said, empty trash, rotate your logs, clear the logs, any one-liners that you can think of, you can put in here, command line one-liners, that is. Put them in here, it'll run them at the specified time, and you'll also get a history of what ran, whether it was successful, if it's stuck, if it's not working, or if something happened like the computer went offline. It's a pretty interesting tool. I use it at one site, and it helps me manage trash cans. So if users manage footage, say on an XSAN volume or some other volume, when you delete from a SAN volume, especially an XSAN volume, that footage goes into your trash can. And you want to be able to, recover disk space. A lot of my edit machines have really small internal hard drives because they do connect to hundreds of terabytes of SAN storage that is ridiculously fast, faster than the internal SSD on the computer. So it makes sense to edit off of that and make sure that the disks remain clean. Reporting, self-explanatory. What do you want to upload? System data, search data, applications, user accounting data. What day, what time? Self-explanatory. Labels, you can label each computer. So if you have multiple sites, you can make site 1 green, site 2 yellow. So if you're dealing with one company that say has 5 offices, you can make each office a different color, so you can differentiate where those computers are, and this list will actually reflect these colors. So it's kind of nice. And you can rename these too. So if you want green to be literally like site 1, and then site 2, I'm hitting tab by the way, site 3, etc., etc., etc. When you get out of it, it'll actually save it. So tasks, this goes hand in hand with the task server. When you run a task, also here you can see it here, there's a Unix button. This is essentially a task, or install or copy. These are all tasks. Always change focus to active task, meaning that if you're connecting something and a task starts, it will bring up a window with the task. Probably a good thing to have so that way you know stuff's happening. And then if you have the ability to do a notification script, there you go. How much history do you want in the sidebar for the tasks? I usually do last 50 tasks. And you can also limit history to days, which I don't do because I sometimes don't come back to a history screen for sometimes months at a time if I need to review logs or something. And I'd rather have the last 50 logs that encompass the last 6 months versus something that maybe limit task history to 90 days, 120 days. I don't know what the max number is for this, but that's that. Security, this one's pretty straightforward. In fact, in the old version of Apple Remote Desktop, here's where you put the licensing in. On the bottom, it used to have the license information for it. This checkbox here, I make sure that it's checked, because if I go to, say I leave my laptop on my desk at work and I come home and I'm like, oh man, I was working on that computer, I left it open, it's in control mode, now I can't control it here, let me remote desktop into that machine, but you can't do it because the application is running and this checkbox is unchecked. It's a big problem for admins. Make sure this box is checked. This will allow you to control a computer that's actually running Apple Remote Desktop software from another computer that's attempting to connect to it from Apple Remote Desktop. So in other words, I know this machine here, this host 01, is running Apple Remote Desktop. Actually, I think it's my laptop, my MacBook Pro. So this machine here is running Apple Remote Desktop. If this box is unchecked, it'll tell me the software is already running, you cannot control this machine. Yeah, kind of a big deal. Data encryption, you pretty much want that. Allow communication with older computers. I need this because I'm actually controlling computers that are pre-Snow Leopard. I have one client that has a 10.5.8 machine for Java purposes. Can't really get into that much because of non-disclosure, but suffice it to say, it is an Apple G5 desktop, the ones with the two optical drive slots. In fact, I think this one's actually populated with two optical drives, a super drive and a Blu-ray burner. Really impressive. And actually, no, I lied. This would be the single drive one because it's a PowerPC machine. It was not an Intel machine. This is a pre-Intel Mac. So I need the older computers. It's less secure, but you can only do what you can do. I usually, for controlling computers, I usually encrypt passwords and keystrokes only, because what are you going to do with mouse data, if you're controlling something? But, you're already encrypting network data when copying items, you're encrypting network data when installing packages. If you encrypt all network data, you might have some sluggish behavior, especially over wide area network links or just slower office networks. So use this at your discretion. Non-administrators using this application, I give them access to full features, because if I have an intern or an assistant that's helping me and I need them to do something, I'll let them in, and Bob's your uncle. Or you can specify what they can do. So that's it for the settings. Now let's get into this a little bit more and see what we can do. This one's probably a little bit tricky, but now that I have if you right click on this, you get all of those options. You can label it, like say Site 1, and now it's green. I can label this one Site 2. Remember, we set those colors, and then if you go between them, the blue bar is just what's highlighted, so it is what it is. But if I go here and just double click this, I'm automatically observing the computer, but since I don't have access to observe it, I need to give it a username and password. So bear with me here for a second. And then for advanced options, you can specify ports if you need to change them. I usually verify username and password, and then the default offline reporting policy, that's what's in the settings. It's fine, not a problem. There's the IP address, host name. No DNS resolution internally on this subnet, which is fine. Otherwise, you'd get a host name here. And then you hit add. And when you hit add, notice I got a blue, whoa, let's move that out of the way. You notice I got a blue orb here. That means that computer is actually online and connected. Now, here's the fun part. You can actually add all sorts of information to this. I mean, you can go on and on and on and on and on. There's that MAC address I was telling you about. You see how much memory is in there. This is an older trash can, so model ID, it'll tell you that. The model, OS version. Here, let's just go crazy with this for a second. And let's say the machine serial number. So if we right click on one of these, auto size all columns, it should put them in a state where you can read everything. And sometimes if you have longer usernames or beefier hardware, you may need to just expand the columns. You can also rearrange these columns, so however you want. So since there's no DNS name, I'll put that back here somewhere. Doesn't really matter. ARD version, that's Apple Remote Desktop version, that's the client. This is, I believe, the latest version. And you can see what version of macOS I'm running on this machine. Now here's what's cool. So this computer connected. I'm not actually going to get on this machine because there could be something open on it that may break non-disclosure. So I'm just going to leave it like this. But you can see I have 3 displays. Now up here I can pick and choose what display I want to see. So if I want to see number 1, you can see here that there's the top display. It tells you the resolution to left screen, right screen, or all 3. Now if you want to get festive, you can actually control the machine and use all 3 screens and actually interact with all 3 screens at once. Otherwise, you can pick that and it'll give you that, pick that, it'll give you that, pick that, it'll give you that. But to start, I usually use this. And what's great, you can see the screensaver is not rendering right, but that's fine. What's interesting about these views, and you can hear my fans are starting up in the computer I'm using because of the fact that this is rendering graphics over the network. And you can honestly start out by viewing or observing all of the screens, because if you have, say, this screen set, it'll remember it. So the next time you connect to the machine, you'll only see the screen and you're like, user, I don't know what you're seeing. I don't understand. You're telling me things that I don't see. Oh, well, it's on my right screen. And you're like, oh, I'm looking at your left screen. Sorry. You know, it's kind of embarrassing. Here, you get the full picture and you get to see it. And you can actually, you know, use one of these 2 buttons. So this middle button is shared control. I like little pop-up menus that tell you exactly what that button does. You can also right-click and do that, and it just tells you control. This is shared control, meaning that, and you can actually see that all those weird features came highlighted, like lock screen, shared clipboard. Shared control allows me to see, move the mouse, password window came up, and it prevents, or actually this one does not prevent the, let me hit cancel on that so it keeps doing its thing. Whatever. Shared control allows both users, you, the admin, looking at it from the remote, and then the person sitting at the computer to actually use keyboard and mouse simultaneously. So if you're sitting on somebody's computer, you're trying to help them, and say a password dialog pops up for their user account, if you don't have an account on that computer, you got to have them authenticate you for software installation or whatever. And once you have that authorized, then you can keep going. You can flip between take complete control, absolute control, or shared control, and just go about it that way. Depending on who you're dealing with. I deal with users that are mostly hands-off. They're like, oh, Tom's using it, I'm gonna go get coffee, and then it doesn't matter. But if you have a user that wants to like manhandle the remote session, you want to take complete control or absolute control, so that way they can move the mouse and interact with their keyboard all they want. They're not actually doing anything to hamper your progress. So it's pretty good. Now, in order to do anything to interact with this machine, you can send a message, hello, and then you can schedule it, send it, whatever. Scheduling these messages are great if you're doing system maintenance. You know, otherwise you can save a message as a template and then use it recurringly. You can also see your templates here or edit templates list. This is a base install, so there's nothing here. If I were to send this, it'll pop up as a notification window on that computer, and you can see that the computer's trying to log in, or asking for a login window because it's locked. So when I get back to my computer, I'll see a box that says, hey, this user, which in this case is going to be 6 Foot Networks LLC, has sent you a message, and here's the message box. And you can reply to it, or you can start a chat. Chat is here. You can lock screen, unlock screen. I can even do a spotlight search on it. But here's what's cool. If I control it, I can actually send management commands to it. So I can copy, install, I can send a Unix command, I can open an app, open anything, documents, whatever. I can empty the trash. So if I run this against that host and I hit empty, I don't know if there's anything in the can, but you can see over here that empty trash, hey, look at that. It emptied 3.5 megabytes, 33 items on this computer. And guess what? It put it into history. And you see also the send message that I sent hello. What it doesn't do is it doesn't tell you the time. Actually, it does right there. I never noticed that. Might be also the new version. So it tells you when the command ran or completed. You can run this across multiple computers. So if you have a list of 100 machines, you can empty all their trash. Granted, it takes forever, but it works. And then along with that, you can boot to an external disk if you have to. You can rename the computer to whatever host name. If you're reassigning a machine, this is where you do that. Sleep, wake, restart, shut down, log out the current user. If you're dealing with older computers, you can upgrade the client software, and you can also change client settings. You know, it'll actually give you a wizard to change the remote desktop client settings on there. Shared clipboard, you can get the clipboard, you can send your clipboard. Uncheck this to highlight the other two. You know, if you want to get the clipboard from the other machine, you just click this, it'll bring it to your computer locally. Or if you want something that's on your clipboard, say a serial number for, I don't know, Photoshop or something. Now granted, with Creative Cloud you don't have that issue, but non-subscription based software, you still have serial numbers, and then you can send that, paste it. Once you paste it, the clipboard clears, and then you're kind of done. After my management routines, I always reboot the computer in case something is stuck on the clipboard, you know, for safety and partly to cure my OCD. Reporting, self-explanatory, whatever you want. You can do a system overview, you can get all fields, rebuild the data for the report if you want the latest and greatest. You can get the report. It'll take a minute, and actually if I close this, you can see that task is running, and it'll tell you right there that it's collecting report data. And here's the report. Oops, corner. Tells you disk space, free disk space, Wi-Fi MAC address, Wi-Fi enabled, primary IP address, MAC address, Ethernet, monitor resolutions. This would be one of the 4K displays, so this would be, oh, I don't know. Doesn't say. And then nothing as far as computer infos go. Those fields are blank. You can set computer info in the sharing. If you go here, system preferences, sharing, and then remote management, computer settings. Actually, here, let's computer settings, info 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this would be your client control. Right. Now, anybody using VNC software, like Chicken of the VNC or other screen sharing software, can actually control this computer with a password that you can specify here. This should be an admin password, not user set. Something that, you know, if say you're sitting on a Windows machine, or you're sitting on a Linux machine or on a server, and you need to come back to your computer or to somebody else's computer, you can actually use the VNC clients that, or VNC software that's on that system to control a Mac running Apple Remote Desktop software. So yeah, that's that. Let's see, computer serial number. Some of this stuff is great for you know, reporting and logging and stuff like that. Storage. Notice the trash is 0. I wonder why. Network, display, remote desktop, you know, computer name. You can export this or print it to a file, or print it to a, you know, printer, or export it to a file. And that's that. Cool. I think we can go on to how we can scan for these things. So one of the things here that you can do with, you know, out of the box is obviously you can use Bonjour. If you're all Mac and the subnet you're connected to has some Macs on it, great. We have a lot more Macs, but just for demo purposes, I connected to this particular VLAN, and it only has my 2 machines, so that way none of the other machines would pop up here. I could also do local network, where it'll actually start scanning other devices like access points and printers and, you know, security cameras and whatnot. Now obviously you can't control them, so they don't actually do anything. Like, it'll start telling you offline, and oh my god, I don't know what to do with it, unknown, I'm panicking. But you can see there's quite a bit of devices even on this subnet. You can specify a network range by starting IP, ending IP. You can do a single host. You can do a file import. So if you have a list of hosts, you can just do a file import. Also, you can scan a task server or an Open Directory server. And that's pretty much it. And that's actually literally pretty much it for this product. So you can see how this would help an admin. Now that I've connected to this machine, you know, I can see it's available, meaning it's online and logged in. Actually, it always says available. It'll tell you idle if the system's been literally not touched for more than a few minutes. IP address, application, you know, there's a lot of stuff here, and you can customize, you know, all this data to it. Now I already did this in the scanner view, but all computers, so scanners, the difference between all computers and scanners should be self-explanatory, but in some cases it's not. You can actually create a new scanner. You can create a new list, smart list, group, whatever you want. And you can populate that with scanners and lists. So for example, if you have sites that say have, you know, 20 computers in the Los Angeles office, and then you have 15 computers in New York office, and then you have 1,000 computers, say you're ambitious, or your company client's ambitious, and they have 1,000 computers in Miami or whatever. You can actually group those and have individual scanners for those VLANs. Hopefully their network is set up that way. It would really be bad if they have a single broadcast space across that entire wide area network, or leased lines, or MPLS, or whatever they're using. Anyway, you can do that here. So new scanner, label it, site 2. You can rename that to site 1. So now you have 2 scanners. Now you can also create groups. So let's say this will be Los Angeles, if I spell it right. Then you can have new group. What did I say? New York? Why not? And then new group, Miami. You can actually put site 1 into here. Right click, don't right click. Click and drag. And then you can do a new scanner, or say you want to do a new list. Whatever. Put that under, rename that to site 3 list. You get the idea. And it helps you organize your sites. It helps you keep stuff in line. You can run scripts against these. Site 1 will have all these. Site 2 will have all these. Site 3, whatever list you have, you can add them, hit plus here, type their IP addresses in, or import an IP list, or, yeah. Again, this tool has come around from the old days a lot. I use it, like I said, daily. This and some of the other ones are absolutely phenomenal. Software distribution, copy, install, deploy, update, whatever. You can do that with this. Obviously, its basic functionality is remote assistance, remote control, observe if you're trying to see what somebody's doing, or if you have a God complex and you have nothing better to do, you can actually spy on your users. Please do not do that. That is such an ethical violation in so many ways. It's the whole privacy thing. You don't necessarily want to do that. Let's see, remote administration, asset management, reporting, automation, scripting. I mean, there's so much stuff. I think out of the box, this thing comes with like 40 tools. In fact, here. So we connected to this. If you do Unix command, oh, yeah. Let's see, we can list all interfaces, manual, we can set it to DHCP, we can set DNS servers. We can also do allow power button to sleep. Use this with caution, because if a user hits the power button on the front, your computer goes to sleep. Guess what? If you're not on the same subnet, you're not waking it up to do your admin tasks. So be careful with sleep. I disable sleep on all my Macs that I control. You can change Bonjour name to current time, date, set network time servers, all the remote stuff, restart after freeze, power failure. Yeah, so quit app, volume off, volume on, mute, unmute, list all software updates that are needed, and see, literally this just sends a command. And then you run it as root, display output because you want to see it, and then you run it, it sends the command, and when it's done, it'll actually pop up a window. And that's the focus change option that's right here. Always change focus to active task. If you don't have this, that can get buried, just like that. So if you don't know that something ran, you'll never get this. So I just ran a one-liner against this box, and it came back. Let's see what else we can do, just for fun. These are things that are built in, by the way. Like I said, I went through and let's free swap space. Why not? Yeah, free 2 gigs. Yay. So So yeah, you can see how this tool can come in handy, and you know, you can see all your history here of all the commands that you run. And by the way, if you want to rerun this, retry task, or you can edit it. You can add more hosts to it by dragging them in here, right? You can modify this command. You know, if you want to do, let's see, that says software update -L. You can also do -AI, I think, all install. So you don't even need to do the L if you want. Or you just come here, miscellaneous, install software updates. See, it just changed it to -I-A. Yeah. Current console user on target computer. If they're not admin, don't bother. I always run commands as root. Otherwise you'll have failures, because usually Linux commands require either a sudo or some kind of root level access. You can schedule these commands too, so if you want to empty the trash, say, every 24 hours or whatever, schedule for, or we don't want to schedule, let's say repeat every 1 day. So in other words, on the 12th, which is tomorrow, right, because today's the 11th, at 12:47 it'll run this command again. So you can literally set up a task just like that. You don't have to, you know, do any task, you know, edit task or whatever. If you've done some sensitive work, clear your task history. It'll clear the history. That's it, folks. That's Apple Remote Desktop in a nutshell. I know this video is kind of long, about 42 minutes or so, but I hope there's some information in here. Don't let the reviews in the App Store fool you. This is a decent product. They do release updates very sparingly, but it works. I use it across sites. I use it across networks across the country. I think I even have 2 or 3 machines that are outside of the country that are accessible via either a one-to-one NAT or some port forwarding that was done on the firewalls. It works. It might not be fast. It might not be real, you know, the real experience like sitting in front of a machine. But you know what? If you got a good pair of glasses and you can see tiny text on a tiny screen, like we were just doing on this screen here, then this tool might be for you. It avoids all the hassles of VNC, it avoids all the hassles of some other remote desktop tool, or even the built-in screen sharing. Because you know, you can actually go into here and do VNC : oops, and then type the IP address of the box that you're connecting to, like we did here, and connect to it. It'll actually launch screen sharing, which is available for free with macOS. And with this, you can actually choose if you want to log the other person out, or actually, I guess in this case, since I'm locked and logged out, it didn't give me the option. But if I was actually using this machine, it would ask me, etc., etc. So there's a lot of functionality here, and I hope this helps you guys in some ways. Apple has a pretty decent breakdown of the functionality in the App Store, so if you want to download it, I don't remember what the cost of the app is, because the App Store doesn't tell you the price once you purchase the product. So, but I think it was somewhere along the lines of $20–30 back then, and it's actually saved me probably a ton in gasoline and diesel costs over the years. So anyway, you guys have a great rest of the weekend. Thank you for staying with me this long. Take care. Until next time.